Okay, I promised you that this was going to be a fast-moving, hard-hitting show with all sorts of energy, all sorts of top topics. I got Colby Hall with me. He's actually a little bit down the hall from where we are right now. He is from Mediaite. He's the founding editor of that company, and they do all things media. If you don't have an opportunity to be able to if you have an opportunity, you got to check them out. And we're going to talk about Flynn because they're also going to be covering some legal topics for us. That is vis-a-vis legal in the media. And I can tell you from doing media hits across all the national platforms that you can get wildly disparate viewpoints based on very straightforward legal points. Colby, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. This is our inaugural segment we're calling Law and Mediaite. And, you know, there's so much in the media news is touching the legal world. Best example of that was yesterday. Cable news was on the edge of their seat all day waiting for the sentencing memo to come from the Mueller investigation on Michael Flynn, which you just went through. And it was a very important day, obviously, because everyone's waiting to hear critical information. But from 9 a.m., we were on the edge of our seats, and this news was about to break any minute. And that was the coverage pretty much through the course of the day, which we put this clip together, this montage, to show you. Let's roll that.
On the Russia probe.
In this Flynn filing that could come just about any minute now,
which can come in at any moment. We'll be right back after this.
Bob Mueller is about to drop a major court filing about Michael Flynn any moment.
Moment it comes in, I'll probably be reading it on air, but
memo for Michael Flynn just hit.
I'm going to go through it with you basically as I am learning this. This just came out within the last 30 minutes.
We're on their edge of seats. I'm a legal geek. I was sitting there all day long, bouncing around all the different channels, myself waiting. I felt like I was expecting a baby was about to be would do with this, but eventually it came through in the evening hours. And there's also this little thing here about Mueller shying away from the media, which I'm not really sure how. I look, as a prosecutor who used to have to do media all the time, we speak through our court documents. But what are you learning about that?
Well, I think this shows that Robert Mueller is not necessarily the best friend of media producers, to his credit. You know, you hear a lot about the leaks from the Mueller investigation, but from my personal reporting, those leaks typically have come after he has filed anything with Congress, which suggests that most of that information that actually makes it into reporting in the news is coming from House Republicans, House Democrats, who are eager to sort of drive the narrative. Mueller, on the other hand, just doesn't care. He doesn't really give a toot about how the media is going to react to this, which was best evidence yesterday. You know, there used to be a time when there wasn't sort of 24/7 cable news coverage where news outlets would try to get their stuff for the sort of 6:30 network news. Robert Mueller doesn't care. He's going to drop the news when he thinks it's important, and it sort of put the cablers in a tough spot because they had to interpret this document in real time, which kind of didn't give much analysis. Of course, the document made it the way that it was, made it very hard to analyze as well.
Colby, I just want our viewers to understand this. Prosecutors are not supposed to be giving information out in the court of public opinion.
Correct.
That's the interesting thing about this. On the other side, all they're doing is trying to influence the court of public opinion. When I was prosecutor, the media is a tense relationship. They want to know the information before you even know it, but you go slow, dot your I's, cross your T's, or you're going to make mistakes, and that's where this tension comes in. You speak through your court documents. But, Colby, I think that you may also have some other maybe alternative media on the opposite side.
Well, that's right. Well, first of all, to that point, Robert Mueller is widely respected in a pretty bipartisan way as being sort of buttoned up. He's an old-school military guy who, you know, up until it became politically expedient for one side to hit him, was held in the highest regard by everyone inside the Beltway. But the document that he released was so heavily redacted that it sort of made it very, very difficult for any sort of cable news outlet that was looking for a clean headline to come up with sort of a quick analysis, which is best exemplified this morning by a clip that we're about to show you from Fox and Friends and a back and forth between two co-hosts, Steve Doocy and Brian Kilmeade. Let's watch that clip.
He was only looking at 6 months max, but he recommended no jail time because of this.
Well, I'm confused. I thought he's the guy who met with the Russian ambassador. He's the guy who it sounded like was all involved in collusion, and yet the very basis of this whole Mueller investigation has been figure out how the Trump administration, if they colluded with the Russians. This was essentially the point person there during the transition, and if he's getting 0 jail time, that should tell you a lot about the state of collusion.
But he got it because they claim that he's cooperating. So what did he say? We don't know because most of his stuff is redacted.
But where's the collusion part? There is no mention of that.
But there's no report yet.
Oh, Colby, listen, I mean, I'm just trying to be fair, and I love those guys. They're great. I've been on the show, and I'm not critiquing them. But as prosecutors, it says a lot to us what's in this document. It is chock full of information, and you got to connect the dots. I'm not using the analogy for strictly, but I'll use it loosely. Sammy the Bull Gravano went out and killed a lot of people, and he cooperated on Team USA because they wanted the guy who was ordering the hits that they could never get. And by the way, to use our mafia analogy, Al Capone could never get caught on organized crime, so they got him for tax evasion. So it's kind of a weak argument to say there's nothing here. We just talked to Gene Rossi. He calls it a box of chocolates.
Well, I agree completely. And to take your mafia analogy one step further, you know, Vinny the Chin Gigante used to pretend that he was mentally ill by walking around in his bathrobe. And, you know, there's a metaphor there for Ducey, who's a good dude, and he's a fellow Kansan like myself. He basically saying, well, there's no collusion there, to which Kilmeade was like, yeah, but it's all redacted. And that the reason I pulled that clip is that it puts in perfect relief exactly where we are with this. You know, the journalists and reporters are so eager for any insight on this lockdown investigation. They really wanted some meat and potatoes from this document, and it appears all the meat and potatoes were blacked out. I agree with your take that the redaction is far more damning for the ongoing criminal investigation, which is what I think the point Kilmeade was trying to make effectively. Like, we can't say there's no collusion in this. There may not be, but we don't really know what's in it because we can't read it. So yesterday's media coverage was all, let's wait for this document, and when it finally came out, we're still missing our meat and potatoes.
Well, Colby, listen, I always go back to the centerpiece in my mind if I were a prosecutor, if I were investigating, to the Trump Tower meeting on June 9, 2016, with a Russian agent, Vetselnskaya, and clear emails and messages back and forth, including messages that they have with Don Trump Jr., with WikiLeaks, indicating that they were worried about the Magnitsky Act, the sanctions, and what is Flynn alleged to have been doing with Kislyak, talking about the sanctions that the Obama administration is a consistent theme running throughout all of this. And, of course, all these dots are going to either be connected or not connected, but there's a lot of smoke here. Colby, one last thing here.
Well,
Tell me. I'm sorry.
There was a bit of a cell phone that was lost yesterday. Trump's personal lawyer and former America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani, he kind of owned himself and made sort of a tough mistake on Twitter. He first tweeted sort of animus towards the Mueller investigation in anticipation of the sentencing memo. You can see here that he said Mueller filed an indictment just as President Trump left for G20.in. Well, as it turns out, Twitter protocol, if you phrase, you don't put a space after the period, it will automatically default to a URL. So some enterprising Twitter user saw that domain had not been registered, the G-20.in, and he built a simple one-page website so that if you click that link, you got to this page, which I think we have a screen cap for. It was an anti-Trump message that says Donald J. Trump is a traitor to our country. Well, that was kind of funny. It was sort of a self-own that Giuliani stepped into his own. But Rudy couldn't leave well enough alone. He sort of made matters worse and sort of paraded his ignorance to another level when he followed up with this tweet. Well, this is not the tweet. This is someone criticizing him, but the tweet below says, Twitter allowed someone to invade my text with a disgusting anti-president message. So he was basically alleging that Twitter had somehow done this thing when Twitter had nothing to do with it, which, by the way, this mistake is made all the time, and Rudy can be forgiven for being sort of not an expert on internet protocol. Sadly, he makes a lot of money for doing sponsorship deals for Experian and warning people of the dark web. And he also was named to head the sort of cybersecurity council advisor to the Trump administration. So it's not a good look, and it paints Trump's personal attorney in a light that is sort of not so glowing at a time when he really needs to rely on Giuliani's wise insight.
Yeah, and he's like the mini-me of tweets. I mean, you know, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. But here's the me, immediately goes to the accusatory, it's his mistake, his fault. But
the best defense is a good offense. That's sort of the ethos of the Trump administration, it seems.
Colby, you're right. It is one speed and one speed only. But you know what? The faster you go in one direction, you may hit a wall called Mueller down the road, and that's going to be a problem.
It looks like it's coming.
Yeah, tell me about these redactions a little bit more and what your thoughts are in terms of, I mean, I get it that it's frustrating to you guys, but I guess you guys, even though I was through this myself, the media was very agitated with all these kind of redactions, but I mean, you guys understand why it is they don't let out confidential information in the middle of a massive investigation like this.
Well, of course, and frankly, like, the media is so eager to, I mean, this story has been a huge story for over 2 years now, and this was the first opportunity, the first sunlight into this story, and it was filled with black bars. So, you know, there's more frustration, and I have good friends who are waiting for like a big shoe to drop, and that may happen in the next week or two. It may not happen until spring. We don't know, but there's, you know, people are get paid to fill airtime 24/7 on cable. And there's not much you can say about the big black bars and redaction.
Okay, hey Colby, it was amazing. I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to be your first one on this. I think it's amazing because the intersection between the media and the law, I've been doing this a number of years. I would give legal commentary as a former prosecutor, as a current defense attorney. You'd walk out and everything was just honky-dory. But now, if you give legal commentary, it has become so politicized, the nastiness of people when you're just giving common, you know, a lot of the stuff that we talk about in the law is common sense. Colby, tell us, what more are you going to be doing with us at the Law and Crime Network? And just a brief cap before you go.
Well, every day we're going to try to do a brief hit where we sort of take a story that is an intersection of media and news, and so much, as you said, is a narrative battle. And we're going to try to track in a sort of unbiased but fair way, like who's winning the narrative battle on either side of the political media legal battle.
All right, Colby Hall, founding editor of Mediaite. It has been an honor and a privilege.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll be talking to you again very soon.
Awesome.
I got my two great guests. Like I said, we're on fire here at the Law and Crime Network. We have a lot to cover. Gene Rossi, Linda Kenny Bodden, LKB is with me in studio. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back.